when it comes to Zebec, I think there's something I would consider to be awesome news right now for it because even though nothing I say is financial advice, not too long ago, Zebec made a post on X and they say how they're hitting the big leagues with Uphold. Now, Uphold is a pretty famous exchange, right? But at the same time, they say how they'll be sponsoring games across the NBA and the NHL this fall. Now, if we take a look at the NBA, of course, basketball, very popular, and we take a look at the NHL, when we take a look at hockey, that's also very popular. So I think this right here is a big victory when it comes to Zebec. Now, they also talk about how they're going to be giving away some custom Zebec jerseys, but I think also on top of that, something that I do want to mention about this post is that they do show this image of the Atlanta Hawks jersey, which I think looks really cool. It looks really interesting. So I think overall this is a major victory when it comes to Zebec. And also to a certain extent, I would say also when it comes to Uphold. Now, sometimes people like to say, okay, this announcement is cool and stuff like that, but what is really going on when it comes to Zebec? Because a lot of them like to say, okay, take a look at the price of ZBCN. I mean, 10 cents is still around a 24x from here. Market cap at that point, would be around $9 billion considering current circulating supply, but still, it seems like a far ways away, I would say, especially when we take a look at not too long ago, ZBCN being around 11x away from the price of 10 cents. But my response is this. I think all of this right here is going to be laying down the groundwork and the foundation for Zebec, I think, later on when the market does better, because I think that right there, again, what they're going to be doing, allegedly sponsoring games across the NBA and as well as the NHL this fall, I think that could really play into it, especially moving forward, right? When the space does better, and I think it gives it more exposure. So yes, the effects may not be immediate, but I think it could very well be amazing later on. Who knows, right? This is just my mindset. But then I also take a look at what they're planning to do with UEFA and UEFA. If we take a look at, the soccer thing that they're doing, that's very, I think, commendable as well. I think that's very amazing. So when I take a look at something like Zebec, I like their shift right here. It kind of really reminds me of VeChain as of right now, because for quite a while, VeChain, it was viewed as this project that has good utility and has good fundamentals, arguably, I would say. But then a lot of people like to say, okay, but they don't really advertise much. They don't really do this and do that. But then we saw VeChain, what they did with the UFC and also with Power Slap. And I think that really gave VeChain more recognition. So I think when I take a look at something like Zebec right here, it really does give me those VeChain vibes where Zebec within this space, to a certain extent, people kind of know it a little bit for its utility, but then it hasn't really become mainstream yet because the advertisement hasn't really been that popular, right? It hasn't really been that well known. So then when I take a look at something like this, I think Zebec is kind of a little bit following in the footsteps of VeChain, and I think that's pretty interesting. This is just my take on this, right? But then at the same time, when I take a look at Zebec, I think what makes it pretty unique and pretty special is that it's kind of this miniature version of Stellar, the way you take a look at it, and as well as Ripple to a certain extent, but then with a Solana aspect. So I do like that. This is actually, I think, not such a bad thing, because if Solana, let's say during an altcoin season, if it were to happen during this cycle, if it becomes, even closer to the popularity level of something like BNB, maybe something like Zebec could go along with the ride. Who knows? This is just my mindset when it comes to this, because usually when these type of layer one blockchains sort of go along with the ride, we see something that's kind of in its ecosystem, something that's kind of a little bit linked to it. We've seen in some cases they kind of go along with the ride. And when I take a look at ZBCN, even not too long ago, top 10 in terms of utility when it comes to Solana, I do like that. And again, if there is, let's say, an altcoin season during the cycle, and Solana gains a lot more popularity, it wouldn't surprise me if Zebec maybe kind of join a little bit when it comes to that ride. But when it comes to Zebec, I guess the most important thing that people often care about as of right now is that it's working towards ISO 20022 compliance. And I think that right there is crucial, because in order for a project, I think in some cases, to really be considered to be focused on payments and global chain finance, sometimes people just want to see that aspect of ISO 20022. It doesn't mean a project that doesn't have that isn't necessarily focused on payments and global chain finance, but it's just kind of this psychological thing where it just kind of feels like a stamp to say that, yeah, we are really focused on payments and global chain finance, because ISO 20022 it's currently being used by many financial institutions from all around the world for something called inter-organizational data exchange. So when we see something like Ripple, something like Stellar have those aspects, right? It's kind of like ingrained sometimes to automatically think that, oh, a project that's focused on payments and global trade and finance, they have those aspects. But then that isn't necessarily always the case. So then when I take a look at Zebec, working towards, again, that ISO 20022 compliance, I think that's a smart move. I think actually Zebec did such an amazing thing by acquiring GateKnox, because if we take a look at GateKnox, it is focused on compliance, and then they literally acquired that, right, not too long ago. And I think that is a genius move by Zebec because, again, we take a look at the strides they're trying to do when it comes to working towards that ISO 20022 compliance, and just, again, what they've done so far with MICA, or should I say MICA, and also SOC2. So when it comes to the compliance side of things, I think when it comes to Zebec, they are making the right moves. This is just my perspective. But only time will tell as to when they will even be able to, let's say, achieve that ISO 20022 compliance, but only time will tell. But I'm still looking forward to maybe what it could do. And I think also something that gives ZBCN a lot of stability, maybe in my opinion, during a time like this when altcoins are not necessarily doing the best, is that allegedly Circle, which is the creator of USDC, the stablecoin, not only are they a backer when it comes to Zebec, but they hold a pretty big amount of ZBCN, allegedly. So I think that might give ZBCN a lot of stability, where maybe the selling pressure might not be too, strong, I would say. Now, I'm not entirely sure exactly as to what Circle is doing with their ZBCN holdings, but just my presumption is that I just don't know why they would be wanting to sell a big amount. This is just my perspective. Now, who knows? But then my perspective is this. Circle, again, they are the creator of USDC, the stablecoin. Imagine if, let's say Circle held 100% of ZBCN for whatever reason in a make-believe scenario. Even if that's the case, a project with a market cap that is hundreds of millions, not even a billion, right now, that does not, I think, make a significant amount of what Circle has, I think. This is just my perspective because, again, they're the creator of USDC, the stablecoin. But yeah, that's just my perspective. Now, we take a look at Solana Ventures being allegedly one of the backers when it comes to Zebec. I think that also is such a good thing for me to see because Solana is very massive and it's not like Solana Ventures is just believing in everything, right? So I think when they take a look at something like Zebec and allegedly they're the backer of that, I think that says something. So when I take a look at ZBCN overall, I'm still excited. Now, when will there be exactly an altcoin season? I mean, that's not possible for me to know exactly, but all I can do is just stay patient, wait, and just hold, and that's it. I mean, I did that in the beginning when it comes to ZBCN, and so far it's done pretty okay, despite the pullback. And if there's that next leg up, I'm just gonna do what I did before and just stay patient, hold, and I just wait. Literally, that's it. Like, when ZBCN had that, pretty good rally not too long ago, I can't demand that to happen, right? I can't force it to happen at this exact moment. I can't. And again, all I did was hold and I just wait, and then it did that. So then when I take a look at ZBCN, if let's say there's that next leg up, if let's say there's that altcoin season during this cycle, we'll have to wait and see. But if there is one, all I can do is just stay patient, hold, and I just wait, and that's what I'm going to do. But in the meantime, again, when I take a look at what they're doing with Uphold and supposedly sponsoring games across the NBA and as well as the NHL this fall, I do like what I'm seeing there, so I just wanted to talk about it. However, I want to say thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you all have a nice day. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.